again, like we got to make ourselves available, and he challenges us to go and make disciples, and that's what we're asked to go and do. So let's live it out in a way that means.
What's up, and welcome to today's episode of Boost Podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, drop a comment in the comment section down below. Follow us on all streaming platforms. We are on YouTube, Apple Music, Spotify, Google Play, and anywhere else you may choose to listen. Yo, so Jarrett, I know that you... There we go. There's the Red Bulls.
Had to.
It's okay.
Red Bulls. Red Bull up.
Red Bull up.
Bottoms
so
up.
I know that you are really into Crocs.
Love
recently. You have
Love
two
them.
pairs, one gray, one orange.
Bright, just like this. This color, no joke.
Just like that.
Yep.
And I personally don't know how I feel about it. I'm cool with you wearing them, but for
Love
myself, I don't know. There's a lot of people that do wear them or whatever, but there's a new thing that I have seen, and I don't know if it's a real thing or not. I think it is, but
it's on the internet.
Yeah, I think it's a real thing.
So
Everything
it's
on the
gotta be
internet's
true.
real. Yeah. Everything.
It's Croc gloves.
Yes.
Wow.
From the feet to the palms. I don't know. To the hands. Whatever.
Would you wear those, Caden?
Heck no.
They're coming for all the appendages.
Explain. I don't know what that means.
From the
I'm not
Crocs,
gonna lie.
from the feet to the hands.
Okay, interesting. I know I would get a pair.
You would.
100%.
What would you do with them?
I would wear them all day long. All day. Just typing.
So people are wearing them on their hands.
Yeah.
Crocs originally for the feet. Now they're for the hands,
They
apparently.
even got the strap.
They got the straps.
What does the strap do on the hands?
Okay, so there's a sport mode. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I really don't know what they're for, but like when I wear them on my feet, I got a chill mode, straps forward, sport mode / like it's time to go, and the straps are back.
Oh my
What are you doing for sport in Crocs?
Rock climbing is the first thing. Or like hiking, dude. We went camping a few weeks ago, well now a couple months ago, and I literally bought Crocs to hike in. That's a true story, to hike in. And I bought them bright orange just in case I got lost. You guys could see me in the woods. That's a true story,
So
by the way.
if you got lost, you're just going to stick your feet up in the air.
Yeah.
So we could see you.
It probably makes
start waving
like,
them,
yeah.
Oh, start waving them, yeah.
I put them on my hands. That's why I need Croc gloves, so I can wave.
The other thing about Jarrett is that you recently cut off all of your hair.
It's all gone. I was
New
trying
man.
to
year, new
grow it
you.
out. Yes, this is the new me. This is it. And I was trying to grow my hair out for a whole year. I only made it 8 months, which is still impressive for me because I used to go to the haircut. I used to get a haircut every 2 weeks on the dot. And so I was like, man, I'm going to set a goal. I'm going to try to hit a year. My wife was begging me to cut it. My mom was begging me to cut it. My sister was begging me to cut it. And then one night, this past Sunday night, I got in bed and I said, it's time to cut it. And I had a dream about cutting it. I woke up thinking about cutting it. And so I literally, first thing I did that morning, got in the shower, went to get a haircut. And that was it. And then
You had a dream about
And
getting
told
your
no
hair
one.
cut.
literally
You told
didn't
no
tell
one.
anybody. I just showed up at work and I was
Wow.
like,
Well, that's how you are. Like
weird.
we talked about last episode. When you set your
Go
mind
all
to
out.
something, you're all in.
yeah.
And
My
that's-
wife just says everything has to be on my terms, but I thought it was kind of funny with her reaction because she was just shocked. I don't think she
Everybody
recognized
was.
me. She didn't really recognize me, but
I saw a picture on Instagram that day, and
Yeah.
I didn't recognize you.
yeah, it's I look completely different. Let me know if you think I should grow back out. I mean, I'm just kidding. I think I'm gonna keep it short for a while.
Yeah.
But enough about me. We have an incredible episode today. I'm
ready.
very excited
I'm
about
pumped.
this one. Bringing on a great friend of mine, a guy that mentored me. He goes to the gym 4 times a day. His dream girl is Jennifer Lopez. He drinks a Trenta cold brew coffee every morning, and he played linebacker for the Dallas Cowboys. Give it up for Justin Beaver. Yeah.
What? You play linebacker for the Cowboys? I'm a huge fan.
You told me you worked for Cowboys.
What years? What years was this?
It was, how old are you?
I'm 28.
It was before that time.
Okay, so
No, I worked for the Dallas Cowboys. I never played linebacker.
oh my god,
I'm
dude!
so sorry.
I was literally like, "What players did you play with?" I was so
Everything
I
else
was
was
so
true.
excited.
Everything
I would
else
probably
was true.
still be playing for them right now.
They could use your help on defense.
They could, for sure.
We're going to the Super Bowl this year. So.
Tell me if everything else was true, all right?
Yes.
You go to the gym 4 times today, right?
Not 4 times a day.
Come on.
At one point in time, it was 5 times a week,
Okay.
and it was pretty consistent.
Yeah.
Got pretty decent. And
You're still looking good, JB.
killing it. Thanks.
And you were looking good because your dream girl is Jennifer Lopez. Is
That's
that right?
true.
That is
today.
true.
I'm still praying and believing that God will deliver that.
So how do you feel? How do you feel about Alex Rodriguez?
I'm not a supporter, but again, like my prayer has always been, God, just give me the opportunity to cross the path, and I get the chance to swear.
Man, that's incredible.
Just
and you also
look her in
drink
the
a
eyes.
Trenta coffee every morning.
That's true.
That is true.
Every morning. We used to do the Daniel fast, so I'll give it up the first 21 days of the year.
I literally told Caden that.
Yeah.
Outside of that, it's the one thing that I'm like, I need.
Yeah.
I have to
So
have,
you got the gold card.
got the gold
From
card.
Starbucks.
I told him about that
Yes,
today.
right.
I was like,
Premium.
dude, me and Zach.
Yeah.
Shout out Zach Solis, great friend of mine from high school. And I told him, remember, because we were going to Starbucks twice a day.
Y'all went crazy. Zach went crazy. He
week
got
and a
it like
half.
within a
Week and a half.
Yeah, it was insane.
Gosh, so gold cards are where it's at. But really, man, Justin, you've been in ministry longer than I've been alive. That's probably true, right? You're a spiritual father to so many people, including myself. If you don't know him, you should, because his heart, his intentionality, his passion for people is unlike any other person I know. And we're talking about investing in people today, and we couldn't think of anybody else better than Justin Beaver.
Yeah. Let's give it up one more
Yes.
time. One more time for Justin. Justin, how many times do you get your name mixed up with Justin Bieber?
Like how many 13-year-old girls slide into your DMs because they
Right.
get confused on
I
Instagram?
I would say when he first came out, it was crazy. You got the, hey, you're spelling your name wrong and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's my name, my given name.
Yeah.
And even going to grocery stores, like I hated saying my last name.
Yep.
And I would just start going, it's Justin. And then they say, what's your last name? I'd go like Beaver, like the animal.
Yeah,
Just
every
to
time.
avoid anything.
Clarify, Justin Beaver.
Beaver, like the animal. And then I eventually just started going to JB. Then
Yeah.
that way I don't even have to mess with it.
I remember
So-
in high school, because so me and JB, we kind of go way back in a way. You reached out to me. I can't remember when it was. Early high school or
Yeah.
late middle school, something like that.
Yeah.
You really wanted me to come to Switch, which is a youth ministry at Live Church and at the Edge Church. And you really wanted me to come. And I remember coming once. We talked a little bit. You wanted to take me out to dinner to get to know me, because that's what you do best. You're always trying to impact the lives of the next generation. And I just kept turning you down. Oh, I got this, I got this, I got this. And then senior year is really when I got plugged in and just my life changed forever. A lot of that due to you just pushing to impact me. But I remember I put your name in my phone. I don't know if you remember this, but I put it as Justin Bieber because we would text every day. I'd be in school. You'd be asking me how I was. And every day, somebody like, who's Justin? Like, that's not the Justin Bieber. I'm like, yeah, it is. Like, this is my dude. Like, Justin Bieber's my dude. And I wasn't lying, but turns out it was Justin Bieber. You've always been an incredible impact on my life. So many. I can't wait to talk more about that for sure.
Well, like Jared said, we are talking about the concept of investing in others. And I think that we can all agree that that's something that's important just in life in general. Just
Definitely.
the concept of either getting poured into or pouring into someone else is key, and it's incredibly important, especially as Christians.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a big thing. And so, JB, like, I want to know what investing in someone looks like to you specifically, because there's like a lot of ways to do it, very much so. So for you in your life, what does that look like?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, for me, it just varies from time to time. And really, a lot of times people think it has to be a certain way or done a certain this route. And in the reality is there's so many things that you can be doing, depending on what the person needs. It might be accountability, just to hold somebody accountable.
Right.
And you say, I'm going to be that consistent person in your life. It might be the simple fact of, I want to start reading the Bible. I want to get better at this. And so it can look across the board like any different thing of, it just depends on really what your need is and what it looks like and what is needed in that time. And sometimes it's just listening to somebody and investing in that way. So I don't think you can limit it to just, well, this is going to be the certain way or this is the certain way it's done. Sometimes it just depends on the person that's in front of you and what's needed in that time.
For sure.
So
And
good.
I mean, it's also, we're going to talk about this a little later, but it takes a lot of time and a lot of energy, especially because those needs sometimes, I mean, like you said, they vary on a scale, whatever that may look like. And so it's kind of the concept of like sacrifice in a way. And so like what all might have you like had to sacrifice when it comes to investing in someone specifically?
Well, I think the biggest thing is, again, like at some point in time, I realized it's no longer me who lives, but it's Christ who lives inside of me.
Right.
And so if that's the case, then I got to make myself available, even when, at times you are tired or you don't feel like it, or, you don't feel the best at moments. I find sometimes it's in those moments that God does some of his greatest work. When I step more outside of me and step more into God and just leaning on that, again, like we got to make ourselves available, and he challenges us to go and make disciples. And that's what we're asked to go and do. So let's live it out in a way
and
that it means.
So Jarrett was talking earlier. He's told me so many stories about just you.
Because there's so many.
Yeah, there is.
So
and he was saying that there's been a few times when he's just called you like
probably hundreds.
12 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And he's just like, hey, you want to go to Waffle House? And he said,
this dude's in bed, and he's like, yeah, I'll be there in 20 minutes. Like,
Wow.
yeah, that's who Justin is for sure.
and go.
Well, I was gonna say it's just one of those moments, and again, I'm usually a late night person, so I'm up past 12, which isn't too unusual. If you text, and I tried to tell the boys even as I led them through our youth ministry switch, of just, if you send a text, as soon as I wake up, I'm going to respond. And it's just, if it's 1 o'clock, sometimes I'd respond and say, hey, they would ask, hey, I just need some prayer. I'm struggling with this or whatever it is. And you just continue just to make yourself available when needed and how needed in that part. But
That's super cool. And is there a point that is there a point when you know that you are supposed to invest in someone specifically, or is it just kind of like gradual? Is there a point? Is there not a point? Like, what's your take on that?
I was trying to think through that, and I don't know that there's a certain point. I think you do get those moments where God says, hey, it's this person.
Yeah.
And there is a peace with that. I think at times, too, it's just sometimes in the randomness of, we do like swerve student interviews at our church, or we do leader interviews. And in those moments, sometimes it's that conversation that sparks with the boys leading them through youth ministry. It was just that challenge of we want to be better followers of Christ, and what do you need to work on? If it's reading your Bible, if it's spending more time in prayer, if it's, whatever it was just, making yourself available in that moment, knowing, hey, this is the person. And again, like it could be a season with Jarrett, and then, he's kind of checked out, or something, or he's accomplished what he needs to accomplish. And then it seems like there's always somebody in front of you. And it's just learning to be obedient to that person and saying, hey, here it is. And it's go time.
Wow.
I really like that. There's always someone in front of you. That is so good.
I was just like, when you were talking, I was just like getting really inspired, just your commitment to being available to people and just, being there whenever they need some help. And, JB, these guys here know you, and they've told me a lot of stories just about your willingness to be available and how many people you pour into. And I follow you on some social media, and I've just noticed how much effort you put into being available and intentional with people. Yeah. And anyone who's done that in their life has realized pouring into people takes a lot. It takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of, alertness, a lot of thinking. And so in those moments when you're just really pouring into a number of people, how do you stay recharged yourself? Who's pouring into you? What's pouring into you? I'm just really curious to kind of hear your take on that.
Yeah, I would say the important thing is to realize, again, like at times that you're kind of depleted, or you're just kind of maybe suffering a little bit, but learning to know you the best really is the opportunity that you have to seek out in a way of knowing, okay, even, and again, like there are moments and times where, you put in a 60-hour week, and there's that moment that somebody calls and says, hey, can we meet up at Fridays? And you've already, taken out the contacts and hit the bed, and you're like, but I've learned to just, again, go. And it's almost a recharge out of that. But I think the important thing is to figure out, in my church, what we say is we want to work out of the overflow. And so it's being consistent in the word, to where you're consistently being filled up in the word, and you're spending time, in prayer, and really learning what best recharges you. For me, if you know me or anybody knows me, it's going to be a trip to Colorado, if I see snow.
One thing I do know about Justin is that one of his favorite things in the world is snow.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
The simplicity of
Yeah.
snow.
And just watching it will be like an automatic reset, or just being around
Really?
it will be.
That
yes.
blows my mind,
And
JB.
I
I
don't
don't know
care
What do
how
you
how
like
hard
so
it
much
is.
about it?
I don't know. It's almost therapy to me.
Wow.
Like I
Really?
could sit there and just, if it wasn't too cold, just sit there in the middle of it and watch it. Just I don't know if
That's
it's
impressive.
Is it is it just snow, or is it in the mountains? Like, is there a specific
Well,
place that
This
does
dude could be
more?
looking outside of his window in
Yeah.
his bedroom, watching snow, and the next morning he's the happiest dude you've ever seen.
Well, there was one time in the city, like you looked on the radar and it wasn't snowing at my house, but if you went like 2 or 3 miles
No
to
way.
the south,
No way.
that it would snow. And so I got in the car and
Heck
drove over there
yes.
to watch it
Oh my
snow.
God.
And
He's
just
so
sat
committed.
there.
Oh.
But I need it. And again, like I think it's best for you to learn what resets you. What is that one thing? If it's nature, then go on a nature walk. Even if it's 5 minutes, or even at times if I'm going to a baseball game in Enid, I found that sometimes just playing worship music is what almost resets me or gets me fired up again. To
Only
where,
Hillsong.
Only Hillsong for me. Those other bands are cool and stuff, but Hillsong just
They're the
is
OGs.
special, right?
Shout out Hillsong, come on the show.
Right.
Yes.
And invite me to be a part of it. That'd be great. But I think you've got to learn best, what is that? And learning, again, if you're on a way to meet somebody and you're feeling a little, run down or a little at that place, maybe it's a quick little worship song that's going to reset you in a place to where you're ready to go. And I think, too, learning that, again, it's not me, but it's God, and stepping out of those moments and asking God, okay, I'm going. So use me to speak or deliver truth in a way that you're, again, stepping out and you're asking God to use you as a vessel.
That's really neat to me. You have to figure out who you are and what recharges you, and that will help you do so much more for others. Because obviously in the Bible there's numerous times Jesus withdrew from the crowds to be alone with his Father, and if anyone had a huge impact on people when he was around them, it definitely was Jesus by far.
Yeah.
And he still knew the importance of knowing himself and staying recharged. And so, Justin, I got one kind of question that you might not be ready for, but I really am curious about this. I looked up the definition of invest up, and the second definition says to provide or endow someone or something with a particular quality or attribute. So if you could bestow a certain attribute on these boys that you have, these high school age boys, what would that be?
An attribute. I would say maybe, I don't know, maybe that just, you've got to learn to be selfless. And so I think it's just, again, making yourself available, even when you don't want to. And so I think it's, again, I know we hear it a lot, but putting others first. And it's really, again, what we're called to do. And it's, that surrender of it's no longer me, and it's him. And so, I'm going to prefer, or put this person first. And, even though I have this plan or something planned, I think, if anything, sometimes it is sacrifice, and it give up that thing that you want most. So, I don't know if I answered the question, but I would say, it'd probably be just sacrifice or.
Yeah.
Well, and one thing that kind of going back to the pouring into people aspect of thing and pouring out, but at the same time making sure you're getting poured into. One thing, as a leader in the worship team at the Edge, one thing I preach to my team a lot is because so much of what we do is pouring out, even in just leadership in general, so much of what we do is pouring out. And so it's so vital and so key to also be refueling yourself. And one thing that I've learned and I've kind of discovered and broke down is finding the things maybe throughout the week that I'm just excited to do. Whether it be going and getting coffee, whether it be going and just driving around or going, for a walk and just remembering the things that I'm thankful for. For me in my life, when I have noticed seasons of drought or kind of a sense of getting burnt out, it's in those moments when I think we've got to be on the offensive side rather than the defensive side and begin to do things to recharge us and
That's really good.
to refuel and respark that energy that maybe kind of fizzling out in that moment.
Yeah, and so when I was hearing that, I just remember I don't really when it comes to spirituality and Christianity, I oftentimes don't necessarily get emotional about things. Really in life, I don't necessarily always get emotional I'm kind of hard-headed, but I'm also like very tender-hearted when it comes to a few things. And like I remember when I was stepping out of worship, I was really like scared. The biggest thing I was scared about was, man, the way I recharge the best is through worship. That's what I always thought. Seeing, all that, just like worshiping, leading worship. I really felt like that was my way to recharge. So I was really scared, honestly, to like step off the stage and to like, worship from a different perspective. But honestly, what I've noticed in that was that it wasn't that the leading worship or worshiping was not necessarily the biggest thing that recharged me. It's seeing people worship and it's seeing their lives be changed by God. Just the life change in general completely recharges me. And I remember just a couple weeks ago, I was doing stage time and I saw a kid worshiping who I know has had a crazy past. He's had a really tough life and God completely changed his life. He's now going to Switch or youth ministry every week. He swerves. He does so much. And when you see him worship, you see it out of a place of like, my life is completely changed. And I got emotional. And I've never, I don't usually get that way. And I got on stage, changed my whole talk right there about giving and all these things because like that truly like recharged me. And I know that it recharges others too. And for you, like from my perspective of one of those high school boys that saw JB pouring into so many and what the thing that we, as high school boys, what we needed to get out of that, and it was sacrifice, 100%. Giving up things you love for things you love even more, and that to me is literally JB in a nutshell is right there. And so that's what I would say from the high school perspective of what who JB is and what his attribute.
I think even your story that played out in high school was it was insane the things that God did in that senior year with you boys, in a way too that you even, began to wrestle and said, thinking about quitting baseball. And I was like,
don't do that, Jared. Don't do that, Jared.
Yeah. I was like, are you sure? And it was even cool in those moments to watch you wrestle and even, seeking guidance from your family and friends, praying and, asking, is this really what it is? And then watching the release of something that you were passionate about and leaning into something that you didn't know about and watching God even use you in our student band back in those days and even to where you are today. And to me, some of those rewarding moments are just simply watching the gift of it play out in a person and not so much you've got to. I think sometimes we get caught up in the, well, I need it now, and sometimes you aren't going to get it now. But you've got to be okay with the, you were obedient to the moment that God gave you and just trust that he used you in a way that you'll see future.
And I definitely say, like, if you are in situations of like wrestling and all these things, a lot already on this podcast or every episode, I believe we've always said, go find somebody, talk to someone you're close to. I mean, talk to people you trust because that truly matters. And I remember that baseball talk, and that was one of the hardest things I had to do, honestly, in life was quit baseball. I know that sounds crazy, but it was like, do I do this? And I talked to you, my mom, my dad. My dad was like huge baseball guy. So I think that was the thing I was nervous about the most. And then when I told him, it was just like, I'm proud of you. And I was like, this is it. This is like for real. Like, this is what I need to do. But right now we're going to go into another really, really fun segment.
As a way to recharge. We're
talking about recharging. Let's recharge.
Bring the energy back a little bit.
We're going to play a game.
Let's get the spark.
We're going to play a game. I hope you're ready for this, Justin.
Yes.
It's rapid fire. Yes. So rapid fire. Basically, all this is, Justin, is we're going to ask you a list of questions, and you need to answer them as fast as you can.
You have a minute.
You have a minute. So you're going to answer all of them within a minute, or you're going to answer as many as you can within the minute.
Right.
And are you ready?
No, but let's go.
I think you are.
A little more nervous.
Here we go. Some of them are super easy. Some of them are really fun. And here we go. Time starts now. Describe your teenage self in 3 words.
Awkward, nerdy, and quiet.
Pick a number between 1 and 100.
7.
What's your biggest pet peeve?
People that say they're going to do something and end up not doing it.
Ooh, man. All right. That's me sometimes.
Okay.
What superpower would you have if you could?
I want to fly.
What's your favorite dessert?
Chocolate cake.
Yeah, I knew that. What's your biggest fear?
Biggest fear would be probably...
This is rapid fire, Justin.
Right,
come on.
I'm sorry. Biggest fear would
seconds.
be, let's go with wasp.
If you could move anywhere, where would you go?
Colorado.
Favorite drink?
Iced coffee.
Dream vacation?
Colorado.
Is it wrong for a vegetarian to eat animal crackers?
5
No.
seconds.
No? Are Crocs good for the culture?
Yes.
I got them all!
Let's go. Let's
Hey.
go. 1 minute on the dot. Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
I had one more I really want to know. I really want to know this. Who's your favorite artist besides Hillsong?
Favorite artist?
Favorite artist, like musician or person to listen to?
Favorite artist outside of Hillsong.
Is this so hard?
It is.
And the answer cannot be Hillsong United or Hillsong
Right.
Young and Free.
Young and
It can't be
Free,
that. Can't be that.
I don't know. I've kind of opened doors to Bethel. Or,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I remember so many times in the loop we'd get on in our loop band, which is a student band at Live Church back in the day. Shout out loop band. That was incredible.
Good
But
years.
man, I remember I'd look at the set every week. Hillsong, 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 Hillsong. Next week, Hillsong, Hillsong, Hillsong. And I remember, JB, can we do this song by a church up north? Like, it's not Hillsong. He goes, I'd have to listen to it. it was the rock
Going
move.
back to what we were just talking about, find the things that you love
Yeah.
and do them.
Yeah,
right? You
for
know what
sure.
I'm saying? They
Absolutely.
recharge you. I mean, no. Hillsong gets it going on.
Dude, absolutely.
Well, their lyrics alone will just minister in a special way.
Hillsong,
and so-
Hillsong, you gotta hire this guy to like to promote your stuff. I promise. It's insane. It's insane.
How
But
many concerts have you been to?
Of Hillsong?
gosh.
I
We
don't
traveled
know.
the world to
Yeah.
see Hillsong.
Yeah, we
to
actually went
Australia.
over to Sydney to watch them in person
my
for a
gosh.
conference. So
Yeah, I remember that was
cool.
that was so
Nice.
fun.
There
Oh,
was.
I have one more thing I want to bring up. But go ahead. You can
Well, I was gonna say there was one tour which I probably shouldn't have been this, but I did follow them. Like they played in San Antonio and then like Houston and then in Tulsa and then there was
JB.
and I just it was kind of a back-to-back tour and it was cool and got another friend to go with me and so it was even cool to get
Recharge.
to see
Yeah.
the different ways that people worship in those different places. But
Yeah, it was
in
a
that one year,
cultural
there was
experience,
four, right?
You know, Houston,
Gosh.
San Antonio, Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Hey, if that's how you recharge. That's how you recharge.
That's how it's done.
There's a couple stories. One, I know you love Hillsong, and Zach and I, again, old friend from high school. We went to a conference in Florida 2 months after we got back from Hillsong conference, and I'm walking out of this convenience store, and I see a lady who I met at a concert in August who plays piano for Hillsong. Autumn, you remember Autumn?
Yes.
And she says,
course she
Jarrett. I'm like, no way this girl remembers my name. And so I go over there, and we're talking, I sit down, she tells me to have a seat. All of a sudden, your favorite singer of all time walks up, sits right next to me, and it was Taya.
Right.
You love Taya, you love her voice. And I'm just sitting here like,
Oceans, if you-
Yes.
if
I'm
you
like,
know.
oh my gosh, how do I get a picture of this without her knowing, like being weird or whatever? And I didn't get the picture. But later that night, I snuck in to the green room so I could hang out with him again. So sorry. Brian Houston, lead pastor of Hillsong, walks me and Zach in. We're basically standing there. He goes, come on. And I was like, all right. And so we go with him, and he's the one that took us in there. I see Tay again. She remembers my name. She talks to me for a minute. I'm like, hey, this might be weird. Can I get a picture? Got the picture. I sent it to you.
Yeah.
And you said, what? Are you serious?
Yeah.
How
And
did
that
I
was-
miss this invite?
Yeah, I was like, what? And so that was like an incredible moment. Other thing I wanted to bring up is, I don't know if you remember this, but one of my favorite memories from Sydney was when I went like 12-0 in wrestling against you. Do you remember this?
No,
What?
I don't remember that.
What's the story?
Did that happen?
Yeah, so I might not have been senior year. Yeah, it was
Yeah, it
senior.
was. It was graduating.
I don't know why, but all of us just decided to start wrestling each other.
Typical boy thing.
Yeah, in the loop between our services on Sundays. And JB never beat me. And he's never gonna own up to it, but he never beat me.
We can go now.
Let's do it.
Let's do it right now.
I think I'm at least 8-0 right now. So I might need
come
to
a little more
retire.
trained and
Might need to
ready.
retire undefeated.
We got a little previous history going on here.
That should have been our segment.
Dude,
That should have been our
wrestling.
segment.
Oh, that'd be incredible. Well, JB, we're gonna wrap it up with the question that I really think sums this all up. And so, at the end of the day, what makes investing in others worth it? Why is it worth it? Why is it worth it to give up your time, to sacrifice all that time? I mean, I'm really, really curious. Giving up all that time just to invest in someone. What does that mean to you?
Well, I think again, like we're all wired different, and we all have spiritual gifts that are used in different ways. And for me, it just comes natural and easy to sit down and listen and disciple, or sit down and mentor. And it's one of those things that I just love and could easily do, in a heartbeat, even when you're tired. And so, and I almost think that, it doesn't come from the validation of you're going to get the acknowledgement and say, hey, it's JB, or because of this. And I don't even think that, that stuff even matters to me. At the end of the day, it's just I want to be obedient to whoever, again, like is in front of you, and the moment that you get. And so to me, it's that brings this is really what it's about. And again, I think if we were all to have spiritual eyes open, there's somebody that God said, hey, here, this person, or somebody speaks up and says, I need this, or I'm struggling with this.
Right.
And I think if we're listening, really, there's a moment there that is needed, and whatever it is, I think it's just learning to be obedient to that time. And it's not necessarily that, hey, you're going to get this acknowledgement, and it might even be 10 years down the road and you get the, hey, it's because of you. And again, it's not what I'm seeking, but it's just the, I want to be, whatever's needed in that moment to, again, be a vessel that God can use, however he can use.
What's one of like the coolest stories do you have? I mean, I'm sure you have a lot, but like speaking as far as like at the end of the day, what makes it worth it? Do you have any story that sticks out to you that is just like very specific into you started investing in someone and down the road something happened? You know what I'm trying to say?
Right. I mean, like I could give you just countless stories of just people and, the opportunities and the gift it was. And even, I think it's because of the way my youth minister ministered to me, that some of these things, a good Sunday school teacher that, poured into me, that birthed some of this passion, the way my mom serves other, she has a heart to do that. And I think out of that, I would say that's probably where a lot of this came from. And again, like, what started it really was 5th grade. I followed a group of boys in our ministry back then, which was called K5. It's a 5th grade program at Life Church. And I followed them into Switch and decided at that point in time I was just going to follow them all the way through. So 6th through 12th grade, I was going to be there.
Wrote it out.
And there were things along the way that I decided, hey, if I'm in this, I'm in this. I'm going to give up things in order to be available, to make time. And so, again, like I come up all kinds of stories, and even, more so recently, again, it's not the, hey, I've got to have that validation, or this was a, good job. Thank you for that moment. But even again, like one of my first 5th grade boys, Hunter Dinkins.
Shout out Hunter Dinkins.
Right.
He went to
Former,
SWASU. He played football here at SWASU.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. And he called one night. Well, he sent a text and he says, hey, are you up? And again, it's that time of night where you're like, I'm up, but I'm going to bed. And he's like, hey, can we meet up? And I'm like, sure, where do you want to go? Waffle House, or, wherever it is.
That's always the answer, JB.
And he's
Waffle
like,
House.
well, hey, can you come here? And we ended up meeting just in his driveway in the Jeep. It was winter, and he was going through some things. And it was cool just to, again, be available to be there. Wow. And it was just listening, hey, this is what's going on, and just being available, praying. And then even the gift of, if you tell me something, then, I'm going to invite myself into the process of saying, well, I'm going to hold you accountable to it.
Yeah.
And so it begins that journey of saying, okay, well, you said you wanted to do this, and so let's work towards what that looks like. Yeah. And again, like there's moments, again, where it's just, what is in front of you. And if it's in front of you, it's, to me, you can't seek the, hey, I've got to have it immediately, because you'll get discouraged, in the meetup. And again, you can't have that, well, I'm doing it because I want to make my name great. Really, it should be, I'm going to make God's name great. And that's what they're looking towards.
And I think that's key when it is, we're talking about sacrifice and stuff. When you are focused on, God and having your mindset on, I think it makes everything else so much like easier in a way. Yeah. Getting up, you got your contacts out, you got your glasses on. And if you are pouring into someone out of that reference, I think that's when you've got something special going on, for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, I think too that moment is more so, it's again not out of me. It's when you're tired and you're like, oh, I don't know, I haven't had time to jump in the Word or whatever it is, but you're really leaning on God. And it's more so, I think, in that moment that he's like, hey, I'm about to use you. And there's nothing that you've prepared for or gotten ready. You're stepping into something that you aren't ready for, and I'm going to use you in a way that you don't expect it. And you just make yourself available for that.
Yeah, I remember the accountable thing is probably one of the second attributes I'd say that JB like instills into people, is because there were so many times where we would do book studies together. We'd talk about hard things, and there'd always be this big group text, and we'd be texting back and forth of like, how you guys doing? It was exciting. When someone would fail, we'd pick each other up, and that was some of the coolest moments to me. Hardest moments too, like fighting through those things that were really, really difficult. But yeah, JB, I think what I loved is that he sticks with these dudes even past. He said he was going to stick with them K through K5 all the way through 12th grade. But here we are now. Here's Hunter now. Both of us are married. Jacob's married. Court's married. These are all dudes that are in a switch group.
They all got married this summer for some reason too.
Everybody, dude.
I was like, sheesh.
Everybody. But what I love is that it was crazy because a lot of times the biggest thing about our small groups at Switch, at Live Church, and the Edge Church is like, we want to keep them smaller. 8 people, 10 people maybe. I remember when I showed up to JB's small group first week of Switch, when I first started going senior year, 35 kids in this group, 35. All led by one dude, Justin Beaver. And I remember like, how does this work? How does he do this? And I kid you not, he probably met with every single one of those kids probably once a month, I'd say. And it's all just because he made himself available. There's someone in front of you. I love that. There's always someone in front of you. Just being available. I love that. And I hope that one day I have that same heart, that same passion. And I hope that, all of us can be available. Always notice that person in front of us and just continue to pour into them.
The biggest thing that I want to challenge our audience with, and those listening or watching on YouTube, whatever it may be, right before we go, I'm going to wrap things up right here. But who needs, first of all, who needs to maybe pour into you? Do you need someone to be an accountability partner in your life? Do you need to be fed or that sort of thing by someone? The second question I want to ask is, who do you need to pour into? Because like we've been saying this whole episode, there's someone right in front of you that God has before you, that God has laid out, and it's our opportunity, and it's the chance that we get to be able to pour into them. And so who needs to pour into you, and who do you need to pour into? And that's what I want to leave this whole episode with. Thank you guys so very much for joining. We couldn't say thank you enough to all of our listeners. Justin, let's give it up for Justin Beaver.
Do you have
Beaver?
In the Bible it says that you get gray hair from wisdom,
Right.
but I think it's from all those kids.
True.
But no, I'm just kidding. But man, what a wise guy.
Hey, so don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment down below.
Yes.
Give us your thoughts or anything like that. And like we will always say here, figure out who you're called to be, what you're called to do, and have fun doing it. This is JB, Curtis, Caden, and Jarrett signing out. Peace.